Okay, so some of you may not have done a concertina before, so I thought there are a couple of little, once you know them, obvious tricks. And the first one, so when we start, so I've got a piece of paper here. It's not very big, but it's going to make quite a small concertina, but it's quite soft and pliable paper. So you want something that's not too brittle. Okay, it's got a bit of give, and you also want to make sure that you do it. So this is the grain of my page, so that's going to be how we're folding, and you can feel that when you try folding in the different directions. There's a lot more resistance folding in one direction than the other, so this one is pretty easy and giving, whereas this one is really resisting any bending. So my grain's running this way, and now, oh, hang on, is it that way? Okay, anyway, doesn't matter. Got that, and that's the way we're going to be folding. So we want to start, we want to find our approximate width of the page, and then say, okay, so that's 21, that's a broken pencil. So 10.5, 10.5, so we get a halfway mark. So we start with folding it in half, and we want to have a scorer, a paper scorer. So this is called a bone folder, but you can use anything. You can use a blunt letter opener, you can use a blunt butter knife, the back side of a butter knife would work. So as long as it's got a blunt edge to it. And we score our paper along the halfway mark, and now when we fold, we want to make sure that the fold gives us a nice neat edge, obviously, and then we use our bone folder to really give that a sharp fold. Okay, and then we just keep halving until, actually we can just, now that we've got that measured, we can just fold into the middle, making sure they line up, giving it a rough fold there, and now we can fold into the middle again, just making sure those edges line up really nicely. And now we can just keep folding those together like so. So I'll start with this edge. Sorry, this is not being very, go up there, fold into up to the edge, take the next one along, fold up to the edge, take the next one along to the edge. Don't press your folds too hard just yet. You want to make sure that you've got a little bit of give once after you've checked. You want to check that everything's about right before you then go in and give it a good hard press on all your folds. So if you need to adjust them a little bit, you can, and then you go in and give all your folds a good hard press with the bone folder. Okay, so I hope that made sense, and just in case you hadn't done one before, and there you are. So I just wanted to show you what I've learnt on how to put the page in without to align it as best as possible. So I've got a little bit of PVA glue in this bottle here. That's just the way I like to work with it, because otherwise you end up wasting it. A small brush that will easily fit in along the spine there, some water in a jar, and I've got a bit of guard paper, but I'm going to see if I can get away without it. And then I have my page which I want to pop in somewhere. Here it is. So this is the page I want to insert into my book, and it's going to go in that way. Okay, so we're working towards the back of the book. So here's my concertinaed spine. I want to get the next fold, and now I'm just going to hold it up like so. So the guard paper is if you wanted to have it down flat on the bench, but it's not necessary. So now I'm just going to, so I've wet my brush. It's always a good idea to wet the brush first, especially when you're working with glues. And I'll just get the excess moisture off, and now I'll start putting the PVA along that spine, and I'm going to try and avoid the bit closest to the fold. So that if the page doesn't cover the entire fold, we don't get the book sticking together, if that makes sense. So I'm just leaving a narrow margin closest to the fold, free of glue. Now, of course, you can use tape glue, your tape of glue, but I'm going with PVA. Now we want to concertina up the pages that we already have, lay it flat as possible, get them all as lined up as possible, and now we want to slot a page, oopsie, get it the right way up, on the non-glued edge of the concertina, and line up our pages as best we can. Line it up with the other pages, and then bring the glued part down onto the page. And concertina it in. And now I'm going to do my slider. If you don't have a slider, of course, you can use little ball clips. My slider is actually starting to get quite tight because I'm gradually adding pages. So when you do that, you want to take into account the adding of pages, the size of your slider versus the number of concertinas you've got. So you want to make sure when you first choose a slider, or how many pages, that it's got a bit of room to expand, to fill more, got a bit of room to move, so that it can gradually keep getting thicker and still handle the spine, if that makes sense. Having difficulty finding my words this morning, using my words. So yeah, and I've been adding little bits and bobs in that I've had hanging around forever. That's a nice little one with some pencil in there on a black background. I've overlaid some tracing paper and added in a few other pages, all sorts of different thicknesses. And the last thing I needed to do with this one, actually, so once I'm fairly confident that glue's holding and dry, I'll come back and score it so that it will, see, at the moment it's a bit stiff, so it's not flopping open. It won't it won't open up at the moment. It's just staying very stiff. So I'll do a score in a minute and I'll show you that soon. Okay, I'm back a couple of minutes later. My page is now stuck in. The thicker the page, the longer you want to wait for that to dry, because it'll come off a bit more easily. So now what I want to do is take the one page with its concertina fold and get it as flat down as possible, leaving all the other pages out the back. So it's only my page that's flat down on the surface of the desk. And now I'm going to run my bone folder. Hopefully you can see that edge where the concertina spine edge is, and I'm going to run, let me just see if I can zoom in a little bit on that, run my bone folder along that edge. Now I'll just, actually I might try running it along this side as well, if I can feel where the edge of the fold is. Yeah, okay, there we go. Now I'm just going to give it a little bit of a fold in either direction, and now when I put my book back together, if I can work out how to do that, now when I go to that new page, zoom out again, where's the new page? He will open a bit more easily, and with time and openings that will soften up, that edge will soften up and be a bit more pliable. And yeah, there we have it. Just bits and pieces that I found in all my collection of stuff that I've generated over the years and just didn't know what to do with. So it's good.